Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Welcome back to another episode of Quarantine Crafts with me, Dapper Alien. I'm keeping my promise, I'm making this a little series. The question is it still quarantine? Is it still the first quarantine? Are we in the second quarantine? What is going on? The answer is nobody knows. I've lost track of time and space like a few months ago, so it doesn't really matter, does it? This is Quarantine Crafts. Yay. Yeah. Anyway, last time you saw me sewing flowers onto a bum bag, this time you're going to watch me sewing flowers onto shoes. Why, you ask? Why not, I answer. This DIY has been on my mind ever since I've sewn the flowery bum bag, and I made the DIY and it went really well, and I finished this DIY 3 months ago. I just didn't film a video until now. I don't know why. Anyway, without further ado, here are finally my flowery Air Force Ones tutorial thing, DIY. Not making that many videos, still got it. Haven't.
For this, you're going to need a pair of trainers. I'm using these Air Force Ones. I originally bought them for a different DIY, but it didn't work out. That's why the swoosh is already hanging off. But I'm going to use them for this one instead. A sewing awl and some wax thread. I've used the same equipment in my last Air Force DIY video. If you haven't seen that, link will be somewhere on the screen now. Go ahead and give it a watch. And you've guessed it, quite a lot of fabric flowers. I decapitated them beforehand, so you don't need to watch me do that again for like 200 flowers or something. And that's all we need, so let's start. What was that? Start. So, as I mentioned, I bought these Air Force Ones for a different DIY video. That didn't work out. I wouldn't usually go for high tops. I don't like the look of them, but high tops in this case means more space for flowers, so more flowers, more good, right? Also, the midsoles on these are a bit yellowy, probably from cigarette smoke, but to be honest, I quite like the look of that. So I'm going to leave them like this and say it's a design element. That's how fashion works, baby. Right, I'm going to start off by removing the Velcro straps, or whatever is left of them. That's one reason I really don't like the Air Force high tops, because I think the straps just look ridiculous, so I'm definitely getting rid of them. I'm also ripping open the seams of the swoosh without removing it completely, because I just want to have it hanging off the sides, so once I've sewn on all the flowers, I can sew it back on top of the flowers and create a little 3D effect that way. Last but not least, I'm removing the laces, and then we're ready to sew. We're going to sew on the flowers with this sewing awl and waxed thread. This is shoemaker's equipment and it works a million times better than a hot glue gun. So please just sew on the flowers and don't glue them. I've seen it way too often. Just don't. It's easier to sew them on and it will last you much, much longer. So I'm grabbing my first flower and I'm deciding where to put it. Once I found a nice spot for it, I'm going to grab it and poke it with the sewing awl right in the center, like this. And then I'm going to pull the thread through on the other side of the flower. That way I've got like a flower harpoon, if you want to call it that. And that way I can exactly pierce through the spot where I want the flower to go, like this. Once I've poked my flower harpoon through the shoe, I can pull the thread onto the inside of the shoe, and afterwards pull the sewing awl out of the flower and the shoe, whilst keeping the thread on the inside of the shoe. Let me know if that was too much for you. Next up, we're going to poke through the flower again, not right through the center, but slightly off center, and then through the shoe. You're going to end up with thread on either side of the needle. One side will be a bit looser, the other one a bit tighter. You want to be pulling a loop on the looser side and then thread the yarn on the inside of the shoe through it. Then you can pull out the sewing awl and you successfully created your first stitch. I'm going to repeat that step around the center of the flower 3 or 4 times, or until the flower feels nicely sewn on. Once I get to my last stitch, I'm again pulling a loop on the looser side, but I'm making it a little bit bigger, then I'm cutting it, and then I can pull out the sewing awl and I'm left with 2 threads on the inside of the shoe I can tie up into a knot. So that's the sewing done for 1 flower. I'm just going to have to repeat that process for, I don't know, I haven't counted them, but like 50, 60 flowers. Well, here we go. I've also attached a few leaves using the same sewing method as before. I'm looking for a nice spot for the leaf to go, placing it down, and then sewing it into place. I'm only attaching the back of the leaf, leaving the front to flap around. That way I think it looks more natural. Now that I've finished sewing on all the flowers, it's time to sew the swoosh back on. I'm just going to place it on top of the flowers and I'm just going to sew it in place on that little tiny spot right there. Same method as before, but I'm only doing 1 stitch because I don't want that much stitching to show. Technically, I'm not even doing 1 stitch because I'm cutting the thread off right away and then tying the loose ends together. I've basically just made a loop with a knot, but that's all it needs. Anyway, I'm obviously doing it for both sides of the shoe. Once I was done with the shoe, I felt like it was still missing something. So I started making these little pearly necklace thingies and I sewed them onto the shoe, and then I didn't like it. Then I changed the positioning, but they kept falling off and I still didn't like it. So I scrapped the whole idea and this footage is basically useless for you. But I ended up keeping like a little pearly necklace in the back of the shoe and some on the laces. You will see that in the final result. I didn't film any of that, but I basically just used the same technique with the sewing all. Anyway, I think it's good to show that a DIY doesn't always work out the first time round. Once I'm done, I'm lacing up the shoes and I'm going to have to do this whole thing again because I indeed have 2 feet. But through the magic of editing, here's the second shoe. Wow, it really is magic. Anyway, now that both shoes are done, here's the final result.
So here they are once more for you to admire, the final result. I'm really pleased with how these turned out. It took quite a while, it was exhausting, my fingers were in severe pain, but it was worth it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I have been way too scared to actually wear these outside because I'm scared of them getting dirty, wet or whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna treasure them forever. I really love these, I don't want to ruin them. Anyway, they're going to get a really special place in my shoe rack, or I'm just gonna use them as decoration in my living room. I'm not sure. Anyway, I like them, I love them. Mwah. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little DIY video and I hope I've inspired you to make your own flowery shoes. That's the goal of this video. If you're giving it a try, please tag me on Instagram at dapperalien. I'd love to see your results. And whilst you're over there, why not follow me as well at dapperalien, because I post aesthetically pleasing photographs onto the internet on regular occasions. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one and I hope I've inspired you with this one. If I did so, why not give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below to never miss a video. And I'm hoping to see you in the next video, whenever that may be. Anyway, take care guys. Bye bye.